My name is Jane Wegesa Fraser, and I'm the Vetiver Network International Coordinator for Kenya. And we liaise with other countries, Uganda, Tanzania. We are just here to chat about Vetiver, no formal presentations. This is just to bring us back to what Vetiver is. It's about 3 slides, and it's just to bring us to what Vetiver is so that we can refresh and probably think wider. The name of Vetiver is Crispogon cyanoides. It is a non-fertile SSP on the scale of peer criteria -8. It's a wetland plant originating from South India. It's distributed worldwide, and it's within our communities right now. We can say that it's at doorstep reach, and we have been propagating Vetiver for quite some time now. This is just to show you the difference between different species. This is Crispogon nemoralis, which has shorter roots and weaker leaves, but slightly not as strong as Crispogon. And that's the difference. So if you're using in Kenya and Uganda, Tanzania, mostly I've seen Crispogon cyanoides. I don't know about other countries, and if you have come across other species, you can also share what your experience with us. This is showing the roots of established system of Vetiver, if you can see that. This is just a few months old Vetiver, maybe 6 months or so Vetiver. And you can see it here. And here we are just gonna see the uses of Vetiver. We have soil and water conservation on farm, which is the main thing that Vetiver is used for, especially when it comes to soil conservation. We have water-related infrastructure, which is slope stabilization, riverbanks and dams and dikes, like what Dick was showing about the riverbank, the dam at in Nairobi. We have rehabilitation of vegetation. That's like, for example, catchments, rehabilitating catchments for groundwater recharge, or also degraded areas like gullies and stuff like that. Like where Temuge is, they do a lot of gully rehabilitation in Kerio Valley. We have wastewater treatment. When you use Vetiver floated on pontoons and floated in a sewerage system, it will clean out the water because Vetiver roots actually consume all the wastes, the toxins into the roots, apart from lead. And if you look at infrastructure as well, that is not water related, you can also use it on slopes of roads and stuff like that. Roads, bridges. It strengthens, like for example, where you connect the bridge to the soil. We have a lot of, like in Kenya, we have a lot of degradation in that area where they connect a bridge to soil, and they are doing a lot of paving, which is not environment friendly and also not sustainable because they break after a few rains. So we are trying to promote Vetiver on such kind of in projects so that we can stabilize such kind of areas using bioengineering systems, which is using Vetiver and other including other designs that you can use like using soil bags, or using sisal, or using geomats and stuff like that to reinforce the soils. So that's all about my presentation today. So we're gonna go into pre-discussion. If you want to speak, you can just raise up your hand. Any questions or anything you want to contribute about what you're doing with Vetiver in your community, we'll be able to. It would be nice to hear from you. Thank you.
Why don't we start off with Samuel? I know he's just posted some stuff. Samuel, why don't you tell us what you're doing? We've been quiet for a year, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dick. Really, it has been a while since we formed Konyasoi Vetiver Network. And the challenges which we have in this Kerio Valley is that people are not consistent and they have not really bought the idea of soil conservation and also like planting along with our corn crops to stop a stock borer and even for animals to feed. So since my group a bit slow, I decided just to go one-on-one, and I've been doing it on my property. I have like 10 acres of land, and I've introduced to another fellow who is not very far from here, and he's also planting a lot of citrus fruits, and he has taken quite a number of slips from me, and I'm yet to go and see what's going on. And he has reported that the vetiver grass is doing very well, mainly to stop soil erosion. Here in the valley, we have a river called Kerio River, and a lot of soil, tons and tons of soil is getting into the river and is taken all the way to Lake Turkana. For our people to take it seriously, I think it needs God to help them to understand how we are losing the soil terribly. But one thing I decided to do was just to work on my property and see that I succeed. And I'm getting people coming in, they are getting interested in training. And so whenever they come, they want to ask, what is this? What does it do? And they exactly see how I have stopped soil erosion in some areas of my farm. So I developed a do it first, and then we will do it together. And then I will allow them to do as I see. And so it may take us a while, but I'm glad that it's good to take good steps. And one thing I would say is that I am competing with myself. I want to see how far I'll go before I become aggressive with some of my guys. So I'm still educating my villagers. Thank you.
Yeah, I think your approach is a good approach, Samuel. I think in my view, from what I can see, and it's taken 40 years nearly to see this, is that most of the expansion of vetiver, where it's been expanded correctly and real benefits have come, is when the expansion has moved from farmer to farmer. One farmer shows how to do it properly, and the others get interested. And that's basically what happened in Ethiopia. And I think what you're doing and what I've seen of your work is excellent. And I think your plan of do it first is very good. Maybe we should try and work up a little write-up about do it first and get people to understand that this is a good way of going about it.
Sure.
All right. What about Peter Kingori? Peter, have you or Nancy? I know you two work together. Would you like to tell us about what you're doing and what you see the issues are in the future?
Yeah, thank you, Dick, and thank you, everyone. I think Nancy can go first with the reclaim, and I can come in later. Nancy.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Well, this is Nancy from Kiambu, and currently we have 2 projects. One is already kicking off. We are working with a community in Deia, that is in Kiambu region, whereby first of all we established a multiplication nursery, and it was a kind of a training site whereby we established a multiplication nursery, and we have other interventions like mulching, contour planting, whereby we are planting vetivers on a low hedgerows, And later on, we engage community and we come up with an approach of champion farmers, whereby last month we were very busy distributing vetiver slip to the champion farmers, whereby they are implementing on their farms. We have like 30 champion farmers, and each and every farmer has already established their vetiver multiplication nursery, and they are still doing other techniques that we have trained them. Like this year, we conducted like 2 trainings with our farmers, and they are really doing well. The other project is that one that Dick has mentioned about Maroroi. We have like 3 dams around Maroroi area. That is Guba Dam, Wegesa Dam, and Michuki Dam. We are still looking how we can approach that project, and we are grateful that Dick has really helped us he has really supported us to see how we can approach that project. I think I don't have much to say, but probably Peter can add on. He can add something from that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Jane, for convening this. It's very important that we all meet together and chat a way forward on how different people are using Vetiver, creating awareness in the use of Vetiver, and also learning more on how Vetiver can benefit the planet and the community. So I'm glad this is happening at the end of 2024, so that we can also think bigger and around for 2025 and see how much more we can make Vetiver reach more people and also benefit. So like Nancy has just said, yeah, we are working together with that small organization that we started. Actually, it's a 1-year-old or 2, but it has done some good work. Now that we have already 30 champion farmers who already have their slips growing on their land. And these champion farmers will now move to bringing in other farmers. So we are expecting maybe before the end of 2025, we might have almost 600 farmers using Vetiver on their farms. And the reason why we started off with the 30 farmers, it's because we wanted to create the necessary awareness to people, since it's also kind of a new grass to many people. It's good that we showcase what it does. People observe and see the benefits that it accrued to Vetiver. They see how it is working on their farms, on the soils, and any other place. And from there, the adoption rate could rise. So currently, we are really busy on working on the adoption rate to see how best this will be done. And reclaim your soil Vetiver is coined around the use of the soil. We found that it's very fundamental that we work on our soils because it holds everything else into account. So we want to have very good food forests. We want to have very good forest gardens, kitchen gardens. And if we want to save that soil, I think the good soil kind of work and becomes the pace setter of everything. So my interest too is more greatly on making good soil and making sure that farmers have good soil, rich in nutrients, rich in water retention capacity, so that they can hold growth and it can assist even people who are being faced a bit with challenges of growing the little they can grow. So having worked with Vetiver for some time, I've realized it also does a lot of benefit to the biodiversity in terms of all the taxas we have, increase in reptiles, amphibians, birds, fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms, survival of many plants due to availability of nutrients. So soil is a great medium that all of us can play around. And I've realized Vetiver grass can really come in handy in making sure like even if you're using any other manure, we are using fertilizers and we are using residues. Vetiver grass is more consistent in the supply of materials towards rehabilitation and regeneration of soil. We know that the whole global discussion is in the removal and reduction of CO2, and vetiver and soil can support in all this. The growth of good trees, where a lot of CO2 will be stocked. It will also, good soil will also play in to increase the soil carbon, which is equivalent to the CO2 broken down in the soil. The vetiver has a big potential also in CO2 sequestration. So it adds up to the global discussion on carbon reduction and also carbon removal. We also see proliferation of towns growing up, like what we've just seen around the Michuki Dam. A lot of towns are sprouting and coming up, and the populations are growing, giving challenges to some other ecosystems. The water reservoirs, our rivers, and a lot of effluents are being produced. And like Dick has just explained, this now comes in handy, where vetiver will be used to kind of solve these problems, where it's bringing a lot of challenges to our aqual ecosystems filled with nitrate from farmlands, phosphorus, silt, and a lot of that, plus effluents from the residents. So I feel like if we promote and work around vetiver and put it as a serious career, a lot of challenges that we are facing in the planet can be solved. It has been a long time been discussed about soil erosion, and we know vetiver will come in very handy. A lot of discussions have been discussed about poor soils. I've really worked on it and seen how it can improve on soils. I've worked with it and seen how it improves on water percolation into the soil. That's increasing the moisture retention in the soil. That will also help those guys who are working in those dry areas, because we need every drop of rain can be retained and can be used to grow food. So using vetiver to me has been a very big achievement, because it's giving results, giving real-time benefits to communities. And this is why we came up with the reclaim, which has its theme as your soil matters, so that we really assist the communities around the area, which is kind of a semi-arid area where people have challenges in accessing consistent food. And I think with what we've already done, we've been able to showcase that this is possible through the use of support from vetiver and its other benefits that come around with it. So while working with it, we're also learning and also establishing new uses and new things about the grass. So I'm glad to be part of this team, and I wish that it can continue doing the same, people coming together either in groups or even working individually like the way Samuel is doing, but also showcasing great things that vetiver can do in support of generating income through growing of fruit. And we can see how that is managing his land through reduction of tillage and retention of water, plus the regeneration of soil. So thank you, team, for coming up for this meeting, and I hope 2025 will even be a better year for all of us to promote this magical products. Thank you so much.
Brendan, are you, or Maxine, what about you? Tell us about you're a farmer. Tell us about your farm and how you're using vetiver, and what do you see the benefits of it and what the issues are.
I got into vetiver last year. I got a few. I think we got about 100 splits from Patrick Mokora. And what we did is we went and dug some pits. We have a citrus farm. So we went and just dug a few pits around for us to like propagate from that. And then we are actually looking at a solution of the farm where we're able to help percolation, if that is the correct word to use, percolation of water into the soil, because the place is a bit very rocky. So we've done swells on the farm to help with soil erosion, and the plan is to have the vetiver integrated with the swell system for us to be able to get as much water as we can going into our soils.
So what sort of size farm do you have? How many acres do you have?
We have a pretty large farm, more than 50 acres, but what is currently, we've done citrus fruit as well as mangoes, and we have about 400 trees in total. So as it is, I think we have about 18 sites within that area that we are using for propagation. And, you know, as we progress forward with the project. Sorry, I know there's a lot of noise where I'm at in the background.
Dick, we have a question from Brendan. Brendan, do you want to ask your own question and probably contribute about what a little bit about how is it going with your vetiver at your home?
Sure. Thanks, Jane. So I live on a steep slope. It's just half an acre residential, but I wanted to. I've used the vetiver mainly to stop soil erosion because there was nothing planted there before, and it's been super successful, Jane. You should come down and have a look one time. The garden's transformed, but we're doing some renovations at the moment and turning a house into a 4-bedroom. And I want to basically put all the grey water into the garden. There's a creek at the bottom of the valley, and so I just want to make sure that the water is either absorbed into the soil or else purified before it gets down there. And I just want to know how I'd go about that, what the planting would be, whether someone's got experience on a system, the water flowing into the grey water. And because it is a waterlogged area during the rainy season as well, just making sure that that the grey water is cleaned before it gets down there. So there's sort of my questions and the reason I'm interested, because I would like to plant some more, but I just want to know how best to do it.
Okay, let me answer that. Email me or send me on Messenger. I don't know how you communicate, whether it's Facebook or email me. I can send you some information on this grey water cleanup. The answer, of course, is that dealing with 150 to 200 liters of grey water a day is very easy. A vetiver can easily manage that. And it's a matter of constructing a small, what we call vetiver constructed wetland, and the grey water will flow through this wetland, and some of it will be evaporated through evapotranspiration, and the rest will come out at the other end in a usable state. There is a very good model put together by Paul Truong in Australia. Paul is the technical director for the Vetiver Network, although he's not very active now. He's getting pretty old. But he put a very good model together showing exactly how many plants you need for so many liters of water in order to bring the effluent down to EPA standards. So, yeah, the answer is yes, it'll do it. And if you contact me, I will give you the information. It's all on our website. If you look up Paul Truong solution model or something like that, I think you will find it. I'm just trying to show. I've got a picture here. I don't know where it is. Here, this is a rather large model, but
there we go.
yeah,
Let's go. Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
is. This is in Colombia, actually. This particular one, and the grey water is. I think they're probably pumping it in here, but you can use gravity if you've got it set up right.
Yeah.
And here's the vetiver's been planted, and it moves through here and comes out the other end. But there's another. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a small little vetiver wetland. This would something like this would actually deal with the small volume of water. You're talking about 100 liters a day. This would clean up 100 liters a day. I'm not sure how much would be the outlet of it, but that you don't need many plants. This is enough for one family of 4 or 5 people in a domestic house. And this, incidentally, is the sort of thing, Peter Kingori, this is a sort of setup one would try and put into those residential areas at Machuki. It's not difficult to do, but it does the trick.
Can I just ask, with the system we're looking at there, is that a closed system? So the water goes in and it's just exposed to those roots with it closed underneath and on the sides, and then the water comes out one end?
This is closed, yes. So there's no infiltration at all into the surrounding areas. It's completely, basically, it's clean. Yeah. In this country where I live in the US, if you have a septic system in your garden, for your house, you have to put in what's called a drain field, where the water coming out of the septic tanks passes through into a drain field and is dispersed underground. Here, it's going into a drain field, which is actually a constructed wetland and is sealed. And what the water which comes out of this is quite usable for irrigation purposes. But that's the
So I think Brendan probably you would want to do a soak pit. Maybe that's what you're designing, a soak pit after your effluent area, and then or you do hedges. Because I did this, like where he's showing, I did hedges like those just above where you drain the water, a few hedges like that, and then the water drains. That was manufacturing coffee on our friend's plot. So they had a lot of, they also were doing worm farming. So the drainage, it drains into their swamp, but we put hedges, about 3 hedges, just before it starts draining into the natural land. So when they clean the coffee pulp and clean and anything that comes out of the worm farming area, it drains through vetiver before it gets into the farmland through vetiver hedges.
Yeah. This picture here, Brandon, is another where again this applies. Peter Kingori and Nancy, this is the sort of thing at Michuki on the residential areas. If you can get people to plant some vetiver hedges in their gardens, just like this, they're quite pretty and attractive for landscaping. Not only do they stop any erosion, but if there's any runoff coming off this slope, the vetiver will look after it, and it'll reduce the amount of runoff. And if there's a surplus coming through and out of the property, it will be virtually treated because of the impact of the roots of vetiver. Anyway, there you are. So Dolly, I think the I personally, and I'm trying to encourage other people to look at this, and this guy I mentioned in Mozambique is going to try it out this year. is that I think with a bit of management, we could use vetiver as a forage crop for livestock and plant it as a crop, say, between vetiver hedgerows, if you want to. And the key is how you graze it and how you manage it. How often do you cut it? Because if you allow it to mature, so it grows 6 foot high, then it'll be like a lot of native grasses. It will be very poor nutrient value, forage value at that stage of growth. But if you cut it and graze it regularly and not allow the grass to grow very tall, maybe 30 centimeters or 40 centimeters, and go in and graze it and then let it recover, I think you could get a very, very good forage with a very high biomass, and one that, of course, will grow well in the rainy season, but even in the dry season, as long as the roots are down, will provide forage for part of the dry season, if not all of it. I think the key is how you manage it, and I would and the way to do that, in my view, is to follow Alan Savory's holistic methods, where you go in and put a lot of livestock on part of your vetiver crop and graze it really hard for 2 or 3 days, 4 days, and then move on and come back maybe in a month or 2 months' time. And it takes a bit of management, but I think that could work very well. Because, you know, in Niger, in West Africa, on what's called the Niger Delta, inland delta of the Niger River, there are vast plains of vetiver grass up there. It's the African version of vetiver grass. Chrysopogon nigritanus is its name, Latin name. And they go in there in the spring and burn these big floodplains of vetiver. And then when the new grass comes up, they put the livestock on it and they fatten them up on it. So I think you can do the same sort of thing with vetiver. The other thing about it is that if you were able to rotate that pasture over, I don't know, I have no idea how many years, but let's say you rotated it every 10 years or something like that. So you grow pasture and you feed it for 10 years, use it for live forage for 10 years, and then you come and dig it up, maybe plant a crop on it or something like that. You'll have a mass of organic matter in the soil. A huge amount of organic matter will have developed. And it can only be good for the soil there. And you mentioned earlier about, will vetiver break up the hard soil and things like that? Yes, the answer is yes. Vetiver, one of the interesting things about vetiver is that it will go through hard pans, break through hard pans, and then improve the infiltration of water. And it's a very interesting plant. It's pretty unique, actually. And so, yeah, I mean, what you got to do is if the vetiver will grow in your area, if it grows well, then you can do anything with it. Absolutely anything. You just got to use your brain. How you want to use it, how you want to design it. And it's like building a house. You might build a house out of bricks. Okay, how do you put the bricks? Where are you going to use it, and so on and so on. You know. So if you want to try these things out, try them out and see if it works. What other? There was some other questions you had. I can't remember them now. What was the other?
No, the other one. But before we get to the other one, just for my own enrichment, once you want to move on in your succession, right? And you say, okay, I'm done with the vetiver and I actually want to plant something else here, something productive, vegetables or whatever it is. How do you remove the vetiver?
Well, vetiver will come out. You kill vetiver by plowing the crown. Vetiver grows from the crown of the plant. You get the leaves and shoots coming from the crown and the roots coming from it. And that crown sits just below the soil surface. So if you go in and plow it, there's this picture here of Jane's here. But if you go in and plow, you can plow vetiver out and get rid of it. You can also use Roundup, but we try and avoid doing that sort of thing. But you can get rid of vetiver by just cutting off the crown, and the crown is just below the roots, the soil surface. Okay, and that's why vetiver is so good and tolerant of grazing, because let's, for example, you got sheep grazing vetiver, right? And incidentally, this guy in Mozambique was telling me that the sheep like his vetiver. They graze it, right? But anyway, sheep and goats graze very, very low. But they can't destroy vetiver because the crown, the growing point of the crown, is just below the soil surface. It's the same with fire. If you burn it, vetiver regrows very quickly because the crown has not been destroyed. Okay? So once you got rid of the crown, the roots won't regenerate. The roots won't regenerate. It'll just you have to have that crown there for regeneration. Okay.
Okay, no, that's excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Okay. What else?
I think you kind of actually did answer my other question. It had to do with our flooding that we seem to be getting annually. As of 2 years ago, it just started. It looks like it's a bit of climate change. We're monitoring that now. But using vetiver to help the water infiltrate into the land instead of just running off. Because remember, it's just hard clay at the moment. So the water just runs off the land. It doesn't infiltrate. So
let me ask you a couple of questions on this. What sort of soil have you got? Are your soils these black vertisols?
no, it's
cracking soils?
It's pretty much clay with a lot of stone thrown in.
All right. Okay. Well, I think the only way you can deal, well, I mean, I don't, generally I would say not. Let me give you an example. In Australia, on the black vertisols of the Darling Downs, the soil, the land is sloping at about 1% slope, so it's virtually flat, and they get a lot of flooding. And as a result of the flooding, they get a lot of erosion, even on flat land. Right? Normally, what they do there is to put in very wide strips of grass on the contour. And it takes up, they're maybe 30 feet wide, and they act as a sort of buffer. But they also tested using vetiver and did the same thing. And the results were very good. I have photograph. I don't know if I. Well, that is. This is on black soil, right? And this is a bed of a hedgerow, and you can see they're growing. It's about 600 millimeter rainfall there, and they got sorghum growing and cotton and all sorts of things. But that hedgerow really does a good job in preventing this flooding. I wonder if, I don't know if this is another one. No. Here we are. Wait a minute. Here, this is one. There. You can see there's a lot of flooding going on, and these hedgerows, what it does is when the water hits these hedgerows, it spreads it out, right? And holds the water back for a short while So you get more infiltration taking place, particularly at the hedgerow itself, and you get quite a lot of improvement there. There's another example. You can see this is after the flood has gone down. You can see the sediment which has been dropped behind the hedgerow, and over time, this builds up. But the key of all this is to plant a proper hedge. There are far too many people who use vetiver, and they plant vetiver too far apart in the line. If you plant 2 feet apart or 1 foot apart, you don't get a good hedge. As soon as you plant maybe 15 centimeters between plants, you get hedges like this. And these are fantastic hedges. I'll show you, there's another, well, anyway, I could go on talking for hours on this. But the answer is yes, it can help. It may not do everything, but it can help a lot. And what it does, you see, is when that flood comes through, it builds up behind the hedge. And as the hedge is what we call a leaky hedge, so the water will ultimately flow through the hedge, but it's spread out more. So it slowly moves across the next area, and it infiltrates better in the soil. That's all I can say. There we are.
How much water does it require? Because we're talking about semi-arid desert
Yeah, I know
area.
you are. Well, it's pretty, I would say, well, it depends. If you can manage your livestock, you can probably get away with maybe 300 millimeters a year.
Okay.
But it's difficult to establish when you got little rain. That's the real problem you have in your part of the world. Is it's so dry there that you have difficulty in establishing it.
Access to supplemental water, but obviously we don't want to drain our other resources, unnecessarily.
Hello?
So,
Well, if you've got supplemental water, you don't have any problem. It grows well.
Hi,
You have no problem at all. Vetiver loves that.
Naeem, I just
Anyway,
wanted to show
we
you.
can talk more about it, Dolly. Just give me email me, and I'll try and give you a response and give you links to some of these photographs and everything else. Happy to share anything. Okay,
thank
Jane.
you. Thank you, Dick.
So I was just trying to share a few pictures about slowing down water in a very dry, arid and very unproductive land. And you saw those pictures where we used vetiver to restore. Like for example, this picture, if you can see this picture here, it just shows hard pan. This was just nothing growing on this area completely. But after doing this small water harvesting structure, and this is a hedge of vetiver down here. If you can see, this one is a hedge of vetiver down here. So it retains water in the beginning, and then we had to dig these small half moons. And after that, we planted crop in all these half moons and a little bit of crop along the hedge of vetiver. And we had very great infiltration of water. This is arid. There was no pasture. There was no food for this family. And now they have plenty of food. Let me just show you what it became. This area, this was so degraded. This is a gully. And after putting vetiver, as you can see, vetiver catching water here and there, it looks dry, but it's not dry. It's not dead, actually. It really looks, there's no rain here. It really looks dead. But after some time, you see water not flowing through. It started showing signs of growing pastures and starting to grow grasses. It's been now about 2 years at this site, and now we want to start planting trees inside here so that this gully can completely heal. Yeah, so when it comes to a farmland, this is the land after growing. Let me see this.
Sorry, was that done without any supplemental water?
There was no supplement of water. We just had short rains, actually. We did this during short rains, and when it rained, water soaked, and after that, the land started producing because we planted a lot of crop. And what we were using as regenerative. This is, let me share now this picture. Okay.
Okay, so I could potentially speed things up significantly if I have supplemental water then.
Yeah, it would be better if you have supplement water because it will be more better if you have. So this is the same land where we were doing half moons, as you can see, and we didn't have any supplement water. This is just one rain fed.
Wow.
Yeah, so it can be really transformed. You can see it looks muddy. Now you can't even walk in it. It looks like a farm. It's muddy because a lot of water was retained. And initially you couldn't dig because it was completely hard pan, completely like rock down there. And even when you hit down your hoe, it goes on the soil. It goes like you're hitting a rock. But after just those small structures with vetiver on hedges and then small half moons, we got this land very productive. So, and it doesn't compete, vetiver doesn't compete with any crop. It helps the water to infiltrate, spread it out, and also creates a microclimate for crops to enjoy fertile in situ, and it's really, really nice. So it softens the ground for crops.
Okay.
Esther joined. Esther, can you tell? She has. I went to visit Esther on her land. She has a landlocked. She has a wetland. She's on the bridge of Nairobi River, and it's breaking her land and eating off her land. So she needed to stabilize the riverbank along the river. But we have a lot of cows meandering around there from the Maasai families. So it becomes a little bit difficult for her to stabilize in the river. And so she stabilized, she planted vetiver in her farm, and she's still growing that and multiplying it and putting in different areas. Esther, did you share about what you're doing with vetiver?
At this point, vetiver remains to be a miracle because I just got to know about this grass. I don't know that still it's right to call it a grass because for me it's more of a miracle this year in 2024. And at that time, I was struggling with a new piece of land that I had purchased a few years ago. It was not fenced. It was along the Nairobi River, but part of the at Machakos County. So this land first was not fenced, so it was a great route for these Maasai cows, and they were just coming in, occupying the land, and Ukambani can really become dry. So once the grass is over, once the grass is finished, it just remains to be tracts and tracts of land where cows are just passing. And the moment I decided I want to do something on the land, it was just too dry to do anything. So when you look at the river, it had started just becoming wider every year because every time there is a lot of rains in Nairobi, water just flows and continues eating the river banks, and then thereafter the Maasai the animals come in. So it was just during the rain, it's worsening. After the rains, with the animals, it also gets worsening. So when I got to learn about vetiver, I made contacts here and there. I can't remember how I reached Jen, but somehow we connected. Um, she took me through the process, and one thing she said, theory in this case doesn't work. I have to come and see your land, assess how your land is, show you what to do. And when she came, we planted a few lines. I was still I wasn't believing that anything would really happen because the place was just dry. But with the last rain and this rain, I've seen vetiver growing. I'm seeing the edges. I'm seeing like green is happening. I can see a bit of green. I think I will share some photos here. I'll just send files. And one thing I've noticed, I planted during El Nino. That was around April. That's when we were sinking on the land. But although Jen told me to wait for at least a year in order to see whether I can multiply, I can like have a sizable plant from each plant. This rainy season, I uprooted one and I was able to get around 20 slips and I used that to plant further. So for me, I believe we are getting somewhere. The other question that I had on that is I've been wanting to plant bamboo, and I was just wondering whether along the river I can plant a bit of bamboo and whether that would affect the few benefits that I'm seeing from the vetiver.
I will respond to that. When it comes to the river, because I saw where your river is and how much water flows in that river. It's a huge, huge river, and because you cannot go down there and plant vetiver there because it's actually in the base of the river when water disperses and slows and it's not raining, so it dries out. You cannot go and plant vetiver there because it will all be eaten by cows when they're passing in the river. So you can put down there just before your fence. You can put bamboo there actually to start creating a buffer zone for water to slow down that speed of water that is flowing inside the river. But if you plant it close to your fence, it may shed vetiver, and when it sheds vetiver, it will weaken and probably die out. So you need to be careful as to how far your bamboo will come towards the vetiver, because I think you planted that hedge down on the wire, did you?
No, it's not at the wire.
Inside your fence. Inside your fence.
Yes, it's inside. So what I did up to the end of the land where I'm farming, that's where the last line of vetiver is. Then I left like a buffer where I just wanted to try and reintroduce indigenous trees like acacia. And then like maybe I wouldn't want to say like a quarter, but a sizable piece. I just have grass, just natural grass.
Yeah, you can put a little bit of bamboo down there, just at your fence below the river. You can put bamboo. It will also be useful for for using as timber for doing anything at the houses. So you can put bamboo, but not so close to the vetiver hedge because it will shed it and vetiver hedge will dry out.
Do me a favor. Send me a photograph. Take a picture and send me a photograph, okay? Of the site. I'll have a look at it. One of the problems of using bamboo is that it's top heavy. So a lot up above the ground, and the roots aren't very deep. And what often happens is that when the water cuts into the riverbank, it undercuts the bamboo, and the bamboo topples into the river. So we don't actually advise people to grow bamboo on the riverbank if you can grow vetiver instead, right? Because the root structure of vetiver is much more effective. So, but if you want to grow some bamboo, I would grow it further back from the riverbank. I wouldn't plant it on the riverbank. That's my view anyway. And it's certainly the view of one or two other people who've used it. But send me a photograph. And when you send me a photograph, also send me the coordinates, the latitude, longitude coordinates of your site. And that applies to everybody because I can look at it on Google Earth on satellite imagery, and you can learn an awful lot from that. I use it a lot, actually, and so that's it. I have a couple of photos here I want to show everybody because Dolly brought it up, and I think it gives a pretty good explanation of how vetiver works for those who are not quite sure. This is a cross section through a vetiver hedgerow, a cross section, right? And this is 30 months old, and it just shows how vetiver, as it collects the silt behind the soil, behind the hedgerow, it will build up a natural terrace. This dark line here was the original humus layer, topsoil, and this is built up over a period of 30 months. And the way it does it is this picture here. It shows how, now this, Dolly, this is the crown of the plant. And if you want to get rid of vetiver, you cut it off below there. You can cut it with a plow it out. But the interesting thing with vetiver, and not many other plants do this, is that you see the nodes on the stem here, as soil builds up behind this this plant, these new roots come out and they grow, and these roots grow, and as it gets higher, the soil builds up here, the roots come out, and that is why vetiver will grow up and create its own terrace. And this is very, very unique and very important. Here is a longitudinal section through a vetiver hedgerow. There is a terrific root system building up down below here, and it's doing all sorts of interesting things, which I won't go into at this time, but I just want to show you what a longitudinal section of hedge looks like from underground. And the last picture, I don't know if I've got it. Where is it? I want to show you here. I told you about a hard pan. Here is the hard pan, right? Along this line here. And vetiver is starting to push through this hard pan. And as it goes through the hard pan, it improves the drainage. And that's why we get very good water table recharge where vetiver is planted. Okay, having said that, I will now put you back to Marshall. Okay. Hey, I have a question for Samuel. Samuel, you planted vetiver along your gully. How's that turned out? Has that reduced the problem in the gully, or did you ever plant any on the gully bottom, on the floor of the gully?
Yeah, I'm still working on it. The part I planted, there was so much rain that it swept part of it.
Yeah, right.
So I'm waiting to do it in January and February, and water it so that by the time we have rain in April, May, then it will be strong enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I lost part of it.
Okay, all right. I'm just interested because what you planted on the top of the gully along the edge on your farm looks very good.
Yeah, I'm going to work on it again.
Yeah.
So I don't give up.
Yeah. And the hedgerows which you planted between your citrus trees, are they functioning the way they should, and are they spreading the water out in the rainy when you get a big rainfall, and is it doing the job with erosion control?
No, not yet, because a lot of it are still young, so they have not grown big enough to be able to stop erosion. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a general. I know it's when you don't have a lot of plant material, one tends to plant the vetiver at quite wide distance apart, sometimes 12 inches apart or more, you really need to plant closer, 15 centimeters max. And if you do that, you'll get a hedgerow which will grow, you'll get a more effective hedgerow in a much shorter time. And this is particularly important if you want to reduce the flow of water through the hedge. In other words, let the water pond up behind the hedge so it can drop its the silt and sediment in the water and build up behind the hedgerow. So close spacing really is important. I see, and I've been seeing this in India a lot recently, people are planting vetiver far too far apart. And it may be okay to do that if you just want mulch. But if you want the hedgerow to be effective, you've got to plant closer. No question about that.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. And it's better, frankly, it's better to plant 50 meters of hedgerow close together than 100 meters of hedgerow further apart. You know what I mean? But it's all to do with plant material. If you can get plenty of plant material, all the better. And I think the other thing is you've really got to get the price down too. If you want a lot of people to use vetiver, you've got to get that, bring the cost of the selling price of vetiver down to much lower levels. In India, they sell vetiver for 1 rupee. It's less than 1 cent, 1 US cent a slip. And they can still make money out of it because they can get a lot of slips per hectare if they do it properly. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Marshall. I'm in regenerative agriculture, more so in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda for a couple of years now. And very big fan, interested with vetiver grass. Early this year, or sometimes last year, I successfully got the plantlets or cuttings rather from the suckers from Jane. I've been working with them on different designs, and all the designs I've really successfully done using vetiver is integrating vetiver and comfrey on fruit trees, especially the citrus and mangoes and avocados, and growing them like 30 centimeters away on a circle, and bringing up the argument, or the rather say the aspect of planting water in dry land, because most of my projects and activities I do are more so in dry lands, and that's where I'm really interested in. And vetiver with comfrey has been really working nice for me. I'm still propagating more from what I got from Jane so that it can reach the quantities I have. And yeah, as well as I also share with other people, because I strongly believe if I share with people, in any time I will have an opportunity to go and get from them as a social banking aspect that I normally do. So vetiver is really nice for me on that aspect. I'm also looking using it as green material for composting, also using it for mulching, and then a couple of many other things. And sometimes I think 4
Samuel,
years
can you
ago,
mute yourself?
okay, there was an Indian who came in Uganda, and I saw him. He told me that he was growing vetiver to produce oil. I lost his contact. I don't know how the project went. It was in Central Uganda, but he was very determined for that. So sorry, I got in late. I got in the group. I saw the link, the discussion about the vetiver late. And still, since I'm still a learner in these issues of vetiver and so forth, I said, let me get in and also learn what is or others are having and what they are doing. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Marshall. That Indian in Uganda, what was his name? Marshall, I could find.
Sorry, I forgot. It's around 3.5 years ago. I forgot.
You forgot the name, okay? Because I know.
But he was highly interested in producing vetiver oil for export, especially in the cosmetic industry. And he gave me an argument, I don't know then, that he needed 100 kgs of vetiver grass to produce 1 liter of the oil, something like that.
Yes.
That's about right.
We don't promote so much oil aspect here because one, we don't have the machinery to uproot deep roots, and that is also soil disturbance. So we haven't had the desire myself. I get a lot of inquiries on roots for oil, but I can't uproot my vetiver and all of it and sell it for roots. And two, we are promoting soil rejuvenation. We are not promoting soil disturbance. And therefore, if you go into digging the roots, that means you're just going to disturb the soil further and further. And I don't think I have the energy to do that. A regenerative farming system promotes very minimal soil disturbance. And that's why we're using vetiver for mulching. We are using vetiver to infiltrate water. We're using vetiver for all other best uses that we can to have the soils actually rejuvenated. And therefore, oil is not part of that. So when it comes
It was
to
very interesting, just to cut you short. I was in Lusaka, Zambia 2 months ago, and I was surprised in one of the villages I went, which is in Tongaland, extremely dry. They are using vetiver for the grass thatched house, and also they're growing it like, like hedges around their homesteads. And when it's extremely dry, they cut the vetiver on top. It remains the root system and very little grass. And then I asked them, where did you get the vetiver from? They say, our grandfathers brought this plant. We don't know the name, but we've been living with this grass for many years. We know when it's extremely dry, it dries on completely on top, but when it rains 1 week, it comes up, brings up new life and so forth. And to me, it was very surprising. In this village, you'll not imagine to find vetiver. Then I found vetiver.
Do you have coordinates for that place?
Marshall, that's very interesting. My first job back in 1964 was in Zambia, and I was the agricultural officer for Mumbwa district, which is on the way to in the Tonga, off to the Tonga. Was it Barotseland? Anyway, vetiver is the African vetiver species is called Chrysopogon nigritanus, and its center of origin is in Botswana, in the Ovambo swamps, I believe. And for instance, you find it all up the Zambezi Valley and some of the rivers which flow into the Zambezi. For example, the Shiri River in Malawi, you can find nigritanus there, and they are in Malawi. They use quite a lot of vetiver now on the farms. It was introduced through a European Union project, and they use a lot of it has been Vetiver, the nigritanus variety species. It's not as good as zizinoides, what you use in Kenya and Tanzania and places. It is not totally sterile. That was one of the problems, but it does quite a good job. And if it's native to a country, then we don't object to it being used. So that's probably why you found it in Zambia, because it's typical to the Zambezi Valley. It's also on the Kafue River. I've seen native natural growing vetiver there as well.
Actually, on this side of Lusaka, it was in Kafue because I was in. It was on Kafue side, on the other side of Tongaland. But in the Kafue side, well, I did not saw much of it. But in this village is the only village I saw it.
Okay.
I was briefly at the Riverside Institute, the SDA Institute that supports agricultural systems and so forth in regenerative agriculture. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you are, you see. And I think as far as oil is concerned, in Zambia, they about 40 miles north of Lusaka, there was a farm there, commercial farm there, growing oil, vetiver oil, plus also other oil, rose oil and things like that. It's a very complex thing, growing the oil, and well, it's not so complex growing it, but you have to distill it, and there are quite a lot of issues, and you have to know the market too. You can work very hard and not get a lot of money for it if there is an oversupply in the market. So you have to be careful. But yeah, we don't promote it much. But in India, for example, the vetiver group in India, they're very interested in vetiver oil, not just for perfume and things like that, but for also medicinal purposes and things and other uses. So we shouldn't turn our noses up at it, but we don't have to put a lot of effort into it. One of the things I find interesting, actually, in India, is that the vetiver oil producers are potentially an enormous supplier of vetiver bare-rooted slips, because, as you know, for vetiver oil, you have to dig up the plant. And then all you need is an inch of root. You don't need more than an inch of root for a vetiver slip to plant it in the ground. So if you take an inch of root off the roots which you're going to distill, you don't lose, you've lost virtually no money by doing that. And if you sell the slips from the top, you can make quite a lot of money from that. So in fact, it's added value. But the thing is, in India, there are 40, 50,000 acres of vetiver oil, land up for vetiver oil there. And so it's a huge opportunity to get plant material for using elsewhere. So it's an interesting thing. In South Africa, I saw some up over in, where was it? Up near Swaziland somewhere, they were planting vetiver oil there. There was a very nice factory, and they were doing quite well. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things we can do with vetiver. But Marshall, thank you very much. Please keep in touch with me. I'd like to hear more from you, because you're obviously getting around a bit and seeing a lot, and yeah, we'd like to hear more from you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. For me, it was also a pleasure learning from you and all about Malawi and the River Kafue and all that's part of bamboo history I did not know about the southern countries. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Marshall. I think we're coming to an end of our meeting. It's been 2 hours already. It's 8, so 2 hours of conversation I think is long enough. And thank you for being patient, all of you. And I think we'll keep doing this once in a while just to see where people are at and if there's anything you want to learn about vetiver. Dick is not going to get tired of hosting us for vetiver discussions, and we would like to bring in as more people as you can. If you know people who love vetiver, want to use vetiver, or are interested in vetiver topics, interest them so that whenever we have such meetings, we can bring them on board, and so that we can learn from them as they learn from us. So we share this vetiver knowledge. So I want to thank you all. Thank you, Dick, for your hosting and a lot of sharing about the vetiver as the leaders and the patriarchs of these vetiver innovations. We really, really appreciate you guys. We get a lot of information from you, and the rest of the Vetiver Network International teams. We really appreciate. So if there isn't anything else anybody wants to say, I would say we can mute and say our byes.
I could just say one last thing, or two last things. One is that a lot of people ask a lot of questions. A lot of the answers you can find on our website.
Yeah.
www.vetiver.org. You need to spend a bit of time looking at it because there is a lot of information there. A lot. I mean, tons of it. And if you use the little search button at the top header and click on that and put in a few keywords, what you're looking for, 9 times out of 10, the information you want will show up. So I really strongly urge you to do that. The other thing is, we keep mentioning, is the question of sharing information. I'm really grateful for the information which you guys share with us. And I share what you share with me. I share it with people all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm really proud of what is happening now in your part of Africa with Vetiver. And it's going to even get better. I know that as people become more interested in it. But to get people interested, you have to talk about it. You have to promote it. You have to share information. A lot of people, some people worry about sharing information because they think it's going to affect the competition or something like that. I can assure you it does not affect competition. There is such a huge need for this technology that as people learn about it, there'll be more and more people using it and the demand will go up for it. There's also a lot of opportunity for small businesses to be established with that. Let me give you just a very simple example. There might be somebody might have a gardener, right? A shamba man who is really clever and good. That guy might, and if he's got a little bit of business nous in his head, he might be able to set up a little business selling vetiver slips to other gardeners in residential areas and use it to plant, do the sort of problems, solve the problems we were talking about right in the beginning about effluent coming out of residential houses, domestic houses. That stuff gets everywhere. It smells. It's horrible. It pollutes the water. People get sick. Their health is bad and so on. Vetiver can stop some of that. It's not a miracle. It's not going to do it all, but it can make a great improvement. But you need people to get out there and sell it. And the young people today who can't get jobs but are educated, they don't have, it's not rocket science, Vetiver. You just need to be able to know a little bit about the land and the fields and crops and plants, and then you can do something with it. And there are opportunities there for businesses. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying businesses where you go and get a big contract with Kenya railroads or something like that, or the highways. I'm talking about little businesses. And it's the little businesses which are really going to help people. So give some thought to that. And if you know somebody and you want to help them set up a little business, maybe you can do it. You don't need a lot of money for it. You don't need any money. And actually, I'm not going to even look for money for you guys anymore because I don't think it's the right way about doing it. You've got to find ways of doing it yourselves because nobody's going to be there helping forever. That's a fact. Okay.
Thank you, Dick. We are gonna do it ourselves. You're right about that. What you're saying about competition actually is not a big problem because we have so much problem of erosion, and I don't think we can eliminate it by 1 or 2 people doing vetiver. It's not possible. So the market is so huge, the problems are so mighty, And I don't think there is anything to fear about competition. Most people have found me because I share a lot on my LinkedIn and my Facebook, and that's how they get me and call me and say, we want Vetiver. And if I'm not in that area, I say, talk to Teimuge or talk to Patrick or talk to, like Esther wanted Vetiver the other day. I had sold her the first in the beginning, and then I said, no, we said, talk to Patrick so he can supply you. He's closer to you now. And things go like that. So it's not about competition. It's about us taking the word out there and letting people see what we are doing and sharing our stories like the way we are doing now, and sharing what we are doing with Vetiver. And then it expands and expands and expands. So people should, I don't think competition is any problem right now. It's just some people are just it's just people want to see quick fixes, like quick money, and Vetiver is not part of that. It's not a quick money thing. It's
It's not.
Yeah, so when you bring in like young people, they have an acre of land and they plant Vetiver in a corner, and then they don't sell the plants. They start saying, like, there's this guy from Caleb's area. He keeps calling me and saying, have you found a market for Vetiver so you can sell my Vetiver? I'm like, I have a lot of acreage here, more than 20 acres of Vetiver. I haven't even sold it. But if I get somebody in your area, I'll send him over. So I got a client from that region and tried to call the guy, and he wasn't on phone. So I sent the guy to Peter, and I think Peter sold the grasses to the guy. So it's like that. When you're not in a region, you're not in that region, and people can find you and ask you. So we are sharing this knowledge and sharing the market of selling the Vetiver slips.
Okay, we better call it a day then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.